Hey guys, I've been thinking recently, right? So you guys may not know, but I've been taking a bit of a break recently, sort of. But in that time, I've gotten real philosophical, and I've been thinking to myself, right? What is a trans person? What is a trans person? And well, I've seen this argument go around a lot, like what defines a trans person? Uh, the so this is a person, right? Let's say they're cis person, right? So let's say they're male to female, right? Male to female. Actually, no. What am I talking about now? Let's say they're born male, right? They're born male, and then they turn into male to female. What defines this process? How do you do that? And from what I've seen is that there's a couple arguments, and one is just the idea of if you have dysphoria, people think dysphoria is like a key part of being trans. And if you're not dysphoric, then you're not really trans because you don't feel bad about the idea of being the other gender. So that way you're not trans, you're not dysphoric. But yeah, I guess I could see that. I could see that. Yeah, I get it, yeah, dysphoria is a big part of being trans, because the whole point is you're born in the wrong body. You don't want to be in that one. So if you're, I can see why some people would think, if you don't get dysphoria, then what's really the reason for being trans, But on the other hand, some people think that, this is kind of ignorant, I guess, kind of ignorant. Because, some people could just want to be trans, they just feel wrong, but they don't have generally dysphoria. And some people can assume that if you really want to just be, you really just want to transition, you really just want to transition, you don't need dysphoria as long as you feel happy transitioning. It's this idea of gender, very it doesn't do much, it's very it's a social concept in a way. Biological sex, that's a real thing, because in the end, what we have, we are fundamentally different as biological sex, but gender is just a made-up concept, and that connects to that, that makes sense. I can see both arguments. Some people think dysphoria is a big part of it because you want to transition. Some people think it's not a big part of it because gender is all made up. And there's a bunch of legal implications and societal implications that come with all this. Because some people say some people argue that the reason why categorizing, if you don't, making sure that this definition of being trans is so much stricter than just loosey-goosey system is it's a bit more it's a bit of a weird, because if you don't have dysphoria, then many conservative people in a court of law or something could say being transgender is a choice, and as most people assume, it's not. It's not. It's just something you consider and you grow into. But if they can somehow, if it's very loosey-goosey, like this belief, then those people can use that as an excuse to not give you medical treatment, because you can just say, oh, just choose not to be transgender, right? But again, this is somewhat limiting. So I propose to you, I don't really want to delete this. Okay, hold on a second. So I propose to you, everybody, a new way of deciding. Because I don't really, I'm not really into all that. This is very much steering into like legal territory and society and all that. I'm not really into all that kind of thing. It don't really matter to me that much, at least not now. But the big part of it is, right. In my opinion, you know. In the end, we all, just in the end, we all people, no? We're all fellows, and I guess this kind of, delves into this idea. Gender is this big loosey-goosey system, but I mean, in the end, who cares, Like, disregarding all the legal stuff and the legal bullshit that conservatives can push on you for discrimination or whatever, but, like, in the end, if you're just talking by, like, an inner circle thing, what's like, the point, If you want to be trans, in my opinion, that's just... You do that. You don't need any qualifications. It's like a personal thing. And I'm mostly talking about this in this idea of because I've heard of this frankly very sucky thing. Is some pencil. How do I get back to the pen? Good enough. Which is this idea of let me just move my mic. The idea of kind of inner circle discrimination, which isn't cool. Discrimination isn't cool as a whole. But, like, to do it to people in your own community, and I see this, a lot of the time this happens, because, especially in transgender communities, is that it seems that if a person here does not feel dysphoria, or perhaps they aren't passing, a lot of the time, a member of the community will berate them for that and put them down. Which, I mean, quite frankly, that's some awful behavior, In the end, I feel like, this type of behavior just not be allowed. And if you do that, you're no better than the very people who are fighting against, quite frankly, I believe you deserve to be cut off from our little unity here, and you can go join the fellows down there. Like, I get it, they're part of the community still, but it's kind of like a family, your parents, had you, they took care of you, and you are of the same blood, but in the end, you don't need to love them, especially if they didn't do something right. Especially, if they did something wrong to you, you have no obligation. In the end, you don't need to feel bad for them if they never feel bad for you. And I'm sure there's an argument that you should love everybody regardless of how they treat you, but sometimes it just gets a little much, That's something else I want to talk about. Yeah, myself, me. Oh, I am Moonberry. I'm sure you guys know. Now, me. I am very, in a way, privileged, I believe, compared to a lot of people. Sure, my situations aren't the best, and you know, my childhood ain't the best, but in the end, you know, I am, despite being these things, I'm not open about it to people I'm around with. So in the end, I'm still just treated as like a cis man, so I don't really get all this discrimination stuff had to me. But I understand that it's very hard for me to emphasize or kind of give this kind of advice to people, and you know, sometimes I feel like I'm not really qualified, still don't really know, but I just think, you know, I've got some okay-ish views that some people might want to hear about, you know, and you know, that's largely thanks to a bunch of you guys, you know. And honestly, if anything, you guys should be the ones up here. I don't know why I just do and make myself so big. But, you know, in the end, you know, I guess this was all kind of, in a way, also just a way to say thank you to you guys. You know, you guys have helped a lot. That's my journey, personally speaking. Boy, it's all a mess. I got so much to do today. Well, anyway, there's my extremely simplified and arbitrary talk on gender, transgenders, and other stuff. There's some better explanations of all these things on the internet if you actually want to learn about it. But you know, you do you. You know, that's my message. You know, you do what you want to do. You know, and you be who you want to be. And you know, don't let anyone tell you that, you know, you're being you the wrong way. There's no wrong way, as long as you're not hurting anyone or, like, you know, being an asshole. And you know, don't get smart with me with what's being an ass. Everyone knows what being an asshole is. Okay, you're just playing dumb for no reason. Anyway, bye y'all. Thanks for 2,400. I'll do something at 2,500 or something. See ya. Bye. See you later.